PDP leaders in crucial meetings, party governors meet in Abuja in anticipation of tomorrow's NEC meeting and a bid to rescue the party amidst internal crisis. And the federal government and some states at loggerheads over value-added tax, who to collect and how in the face of a lawsuit. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaroye in Lagos. Let's check out now some of your political roundup stories, and when we come back, we'll dig into some of the issues that we have for discussion tonight.
The Federal Executive Council today approved the national policy on fifth-generation network 5G in Nigeria. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Pantami, who briefed State House correspondents for the first time since April this year, explains that the benefits that accrues from employing such network include larger capacity, higher data rates, among other economic, health, security, and educational opportunities.
We should try to give our security institutions the support they need in order to deliver on their mandate.
He also clarified that telecommunications shutdown in Zamfara State did not emanate from him, but was at the request of security institutions to enhance strategies. He indicates that the government is willing to take any action, including compromising economic benefits, to render full support towards the security of the country.
Investors in the sector invested because of profit, but they understand the priority of our government. Then when security benefits, security and economic benefits are going to be attained simultaneously, then definitely we are going to pursue both of them.
Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has commended his party, the All Progressives Congress, for its resounding victory in the just concluded local government election, especially in the southern part of the state, where it won 4 out of the 7 local government areas where results have been declared so far. The governor described APC's victory in southern Kaduna as a referendum on good governance and a significant step in advancing political consensus and overcoming division in the state.
We are most grateful to the people of the Kaduna South Senatorial District, whose votes have helped expand the APC's footprint in the area.
Ahead of President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to Imo State on Thursday, the 9th of September 2021, the Imo State government says adequate and proper security measures have been put in place as the president visits the state to commission some projects executed by the Uzodinma-led administration in the state.
While we urge Imo people to come out in mass to welcome Mr. President, we also want to advise those who are contriving the idea of constituting themselves with any form of security nuisance to banish the idea, because they will be doing so at their own risk.
Meanwhile, a former Osun State Senator and the PDP candidate in the last governorship election, Senator Ademola Adeleke, has issued a note of warning on the sitting governor to be prepared for the intense engagement ahead of the next year governorship election. Adeleke, who was speaking at a welcome rally organized by the party at its secretariat in Oshogbo as he appears in public in the state after a long time, says Governor Oyetola should start preparing his handover notes because he is ready to defeat the APC at the polls.
All right then, let's begin by talking about the major opposition party in Nigeria, the PDP. Well, the leaders of the party have been meeting over the internal affairs of the party. And so the National Working Committee met on Monday and Tuesday. And today the governors of the party are meeting in Abuja. Some former governors of the PDP are also attending that meeting. The meeting is holding at the Akwa Ibom Governors Lodge in Abuja. The meeting is being held ahead of the party's National Executive Committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow. According to the Director General of the PDP Governors Forum, the meeting will discuss matters that are affecting the party. The PDP NWC and its National Assembly caucus had recently fixed October the 10th for a national convention to elect new leadership for the party and save it from the recent crisis, which has led to several court orders restraining the seconders-led NWC from representing the party. We understand that some former governors of the PDP are also attending the meeting with the governors. There are big questions here. The PDP wants to set up, a national convention, and there are processes to that. There will be ward, state congresses. There are at least 7 states where the PDP will have to ensure that it conducts congresses across board before it now goes into a national convention. It's a logistics problem in the face of the timing that the party leadership has set before the NWC, which of course has had Mr. Uche Seconder sitting outside of the room because the court is saying that he should not parade himself as the chairman of the party. Meanwhile, Elder Yomi Akinwumi has been the one acting as the national chairman of the PDP. Don't forget, one of the major agenda of the PDP this time is that they want to upstage the APC from prominence at the center in 2023. In the face of all of these crises, there are different forces in the PDP that are fighting for prominence and control of the party. The issue of the zoning of the presidential seat for the candidate for the PDP is another matter entirely. Where will the party zone the chairmanship of the party for the next national convention? Because that will determine where they will zone the presidential candidacy of the PDP. These are so many questions that needs to be dissected tonight. And that's why I have some very senior members of the party tonight. I'm being joined from our Abuja studio by Senator Emmanuel Okejev. He's a senator representing Benue State in the National Assembly. And also with him there is a former spokesperson of the PDP presidential campaign in the 2019 presidential election, Mr. Segun Shoumi, both men are in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Let me perhaps begin with you, Senator. You are at the very top of the leadership of the party. You belong to the Senate caucus, and you understand what is happening. Give us a sense of how crucial the next meeting of tomorrow will be. The governors have met today. We understand that some former governors are also meeting with them. What do you hope to see happen at the next meeting tomorrow?
Well, thank you, Sean. If I sit here and say I'm proud of what is happening within my party, I'll be lying. Because, like you said in your intro, a lot of Nigerians will be expecting that the PDP takeover of power in 2023 should have been a given, considering the failure of the present government to deliver on their promises, that they gave to Nigerians way back in the run-up to the elections of 2015. They have totally failed. So the expectation would be that PDP, being the next major party, would take advantage of that and in 2023 take over this. But with what is happening, I have my doubts. I have my doubts because if we don't resolve these issues as quickly as possible, well, where are we going to anchor that expectation of taking over in 2023? So it's because of that the series of meetings that are being held have become a matter of urgency. We have no other way if we expect to survive as a party. That is when I say survive in terms of taking over power, which is the expectation of every member of the party and, of course, the generality of Nigerians out there. Okay, so of course, the APC too has its own problem, but I don't want to anchor my expectation. I don't want to anchor my hopes on the failure of another party. It should be the preparation of our party to take over that should be at the fulcrum of what we are doing as a party. So the leaders of the party have no choice but to come together and ensure that, because when I look at it, I fail to exactly put my finger on what is the problem. Truly, I fail to, even as a member of the party, I fail to put my finger, other than that, anytime we are going towards an election, you start having some of these problems here and there because of permutations for 2023. I'm only hazarding a guess that could be the reason why we're having some of these issues. Otherwise, we are going to have a national convention very soon. So why should the issue of who is the chairman, who is not the chairman, be at the core of the crisis that we have today in the party? So tomorrow's or any other meeting that will come in the days ahead is critically important to the survival of the party as far as the issue of the coming elections is concerned.
I've spoken to you on this program a few times, Senator, and one thing I can deduce from the kind of person you are is that you speak it the way it is. Let me see if you will do that for us one more time tonight. Is there a contest in your party about those who want to take control of the party? What is this all about?
Well, I think you can't run away from that. I can't exactly say this is the person that wants to take over the control of the party, but the permutations that are going on is very clear to even a passive observer that the issues are stakers. And as always, even in the other parties, that is always the issue. But in this party too, it seems to me like you can't run away from the fact that as we run towards 2023, some people would like to have an edge over others, and therefore the squabbling, the hyped crisis that we have now, it should be, I can't see. But what I always like to remind people is that if we fracture ourselves up because of 2023, of what use is that? Because we won't be going there as one unit, and therefore, considering that we're an opposition party, that is a new wind that will blow nobody within the party any good. So we have no choice but just to come together and forget about individual expectations, because as an individual, you can't make it. We just have to bond together as a group. There are a lot of factors in our favor as we go towards 2023. But we have to harness those, the factors that will lead us to that environment.
Let me go to Mr. Segun Shawumi. If you want to take a critical analysis of what has happened to the PDP's fortune from 2015, a terrible bloody nose in 2015, when a sitting or a ruling party was removed from government in 2015. And you were one of those who were conversing for votes for your party. You spoke eloquently for your party, telling Nigerians what your party represents in 2019, hoping that you want to return to power. That was another disappointment for your party. You lost the election at the center in 2019. Salt onto injury, it may look, you've lost about 2 or so governors in the last few weeks, few months. Again, for the 3rd time in 1 month, your governors have converged in Abuja to meet about the situation of the party. Is it a beginning of another troubled water for what we have seen? A similar thing we've seen in the past, Mr. Shawumi.
Well, Sean, first of all, thank you very much. For you to call an election a loss, you must go to the integrity of the election process itself. As far as we are concerned, in 2019, we have accepted the result, but we truly think our party won that election. And we're hoping that in the build-up to 2023, the election process will be cleaned up to such a point that it will leave nobody guessing as to the quality and integrity of the process. Once the election integrity is very high, then it becomes easier for people to, get the result that they deserve. That's said on that. In terms of the shenanigans and internal troubles and squabbles going on in the PDP, I always tell people, let us learn to compare like with likes. We should compare oranges and oranges and apples and apples. Between 2018 to about now, we've had a very stable period under the Secondus-led NWC. Compare that to our rivals. They can't say they've done the same thing. Then there is an issue on the table which borders on a court order that says he shouldn't parade himself for now as chairman. Most parties, especially our rivals, would have collapsed even on the weight of just that alone. But what have you seen with the PDP? You have seen that the internal mechanism of the party has a clear line of succession even when these issues come up. For instance, it is not by magic that the laws and the constitution of our party created an opportunity for the Deputy National Chairman, South, Elde Akinwumi, who happens to come from my Ogun State, to now stand in gap. That means that beyond the conversations around how do we, calm free nerves, how do we keep the party going forward, the party is moving. Again, you have also seen that the democratic organs of the party, the Governors Forum, the Senators Forum, where my brother is a member, the Rep Caucus, the BOT, all of the democratic instruments that allows the political party to anchor was immediately stimulated and activated, and they have been busy. Hey, Sheung, that is what is expected of a democratic institution. It is foolhardy to expect that, because you are in democracy, issues will not come up. What is more to be desired is how do those parties, what kind of mechanism do they have to manage those crises? Now flip it to the APC. You can barely explain how they ended up losing the Adams Oshomole NWC, and it collapsed everything under him until they've been with the caretaker committee, which will be struggling continuously to justify its legitimacy based on some of the things we're hearing from them. Their organs could not even manage the fallout of that. And then you look at the PDP and you say, well, you would prefer that they didn't have these issues. But be that as it may, you have to commend them that the democratic development and the robustness within that party reflects that it is a party that is alive, it's a party that has a soul, and it's a party that is moving towards, managing its issue. In any case, the neck of the party has put a date for the next convention. Naturally, that throws up the need for some of these meetings. Part of these meetings will be, how do you constitute a convention planning committee? People must be populated into those committees. Then will be the actual organizing of convention. Then it will be the issues that are pending in the meantime. Among them, but definitely not the exclusive issue, will be the Anambra election, where you can see they've set up their committees, they are about to inaugurate them, and everybody is going to fly into Anambra trying to champion the cause of the party. There are also those states that have to deal with their own conventions that they need to, make up before we get to the national convention. These are all very serious issues. And if you are not going to run a draconian organization, or you are not going to run the piece of the graveyard where everybody just assumes that all is right and where there are no institutions to carry them over, then I guess you want to say that for the level of our democracy in Nigeria, it is not perhaps chance that the People's Democratic Party of Nigeria is a party that was inaugurated with all others sometimes around 1998, and is the only party that is still standing with its name intact, with its fortunes. It's won elections here, it's formed government here, it's done a lot of wonderful things in this country. It's lost election as should be expected in a democracy. It's preparing for the next election, and I believe that when the Nigerians take a referendum on what their life has been like, how they have been treated, how the people that have been in Benue have been basically macheted, how insecurity has gone all over the land, the level of poverty in the country, I expect Nigerians to know precisely that PDP is a democratic institution and they can hedge their bet on it because they know how to make life more abundant for all Nigerians.
I can bet that you speak eloquently for your party, but I don't know how eloquent you can present your position tonight or defend your party tonight in the face of what you're facing. And the question I'm going to ask you, Mr. Oshomole, is the fact that time is no longer on your side in the party. The NEC has said conduct a national convention by the 10th of October. Today is the 8th of October. So you just have about a month to do that. About 10 states now of the PDP are struggling, have problems with their structure. That means the party needs to go to those states and conduct the structures, congresses from the very beginning to the very top in those states. That means you are running, time is not on your side. How can you convince Nigerians that your party that you say that is democratic is having itself in a disorganizational mode as it is right now? And how can Nigerians trust Nigeria into the hands of your party?
Okay, I'll tell you what. You see, you have to understand that this is a country where when we run even general elections, we run it on the same day. Therefore, there's no big deal in running states congresses in about 4, 5, or 7 states. Once the dates are fixed, the logistics and the wherewithal is known, the capability to go in there and do the count and observe what has happened and harvest the result is known. No, I believe that that can happen once the dates for it are fixed. The other thing I need to also say is that we are not a political party that does not react to what the law says. We're not like our rivals who, in spite of pronouncements of courts and all that, they go ahead and pretend as if those orders will not be respected. We have demonstrated over the years that once the court speaks, we respect the court. And that sometimes throw up some of these shenanigans. But what will a political party do? The political party will set up its organs, the BOT, the NEC, the Governors Forum, the Senate caucus, the House Rep caucus, all of the stakeholders of the party to begin to manage the complexities that we're in. And I tell you again, Shehu, don't forget, whereas we're talking about a PDP that has a working NWC, only with the last chairman being suspended, you're not going to compare it with an APC that doesn't even know what it's running on. Is it running on a caretaker app perpetually? Is it able to call his own NEC meetings? And so I beg of you. When I ask you to compare like with like, I'm not building castles in the sky. And I'm not saying things that Nigerians cannot validate. I'm saying that democracy can sometimes be turbulent because of contestation of interest. But that what is important is how democratic institutions manage themselves. And I dare say that you have to call the PDP and say, well, it's a work in progress democracy, but certainly they're doing a few things right, and they will likely exit this quickly. And in the unlikely situation that they have to push the date forward, I am sure that those who sat at NEC to put that date also have the understanding of what the expectations are. The 21 days notice that has to be given to INEC so that they are aware that we're going to do the convention, the logistic requirement of putting all of that. They will hem it in, and they will give us a convention that will get us ready. They'll talk about the issues of zoning, we'll determine where we want to put the national chairmanship and all of the issues. People will contest for them. And again, just like you saw with our 2019 presidential primary, where it was a signature of all lights, it was choreographed almost like a command performance of an orchestra. You're going to find the PDP again able to come to the public space and show a convention that makes sense. All that will be required is a bit of give and take here and there. And I'm sure that, like you know, like I always say, the PDP has a soul. All the requirement to make everybody have their free enough camp will be done. But certainly the party will be better off for it by the time we're done with this.
Senator, let me come back to you. It is, I mean, even to a child who understands that 2023 is at the heart of what is happening in your party. And the contestation also is whether or not those forces who think it should be zoned to the north or it should be zoned to the south. In all honesty, with what we've seen in our recent political history, where do you suppose that your party, the PDP, I mean, which is the originator of the rotational presidency, should zone the 2023 presidency?
Well, thanks for that question. I wouldn't want to sit here and start running ahead of myself over what the party position would be. What I can say personally is that any setup that I belong to, I like for fairness to take place, for justice to take place. And that's the best that I can say. Let the leaders of the party sit and do what is right, do what is just. Like you pointed out, our party has been at the forefront of insisting that the right thing is done in terms of zoning of positions here and there, and we shouldn't abandon it now. So even as they sit, they know the right thing to do, you know. And you know, it pains me when I see a lot of should I say movement over nothing. You know, there's a lot of movement in the party over non-issues at all, because we normally like to compare ourselves with America, where we got this style of democracy, and they do just like politicians anywhere. They also have their issues, but if you look at it, in most instances, their issues are over ideology and, you know, what do you stand for? How should government be run and all of that? But here we argue a lot over issues that Nigerians cannot identify with. Okay, So let us, I'm pained that we may be presenting the Nigerian public with, it's like we are trapping them between the rock and the hard place, which is not right, which there should be a clear place to lean to, because outside of the PDP, I don't see any party that can come up and challenge this and consider the numbers that will be required to win the presidency. So we have a beautiful opportunity to do that. And instead, we sit here discussing, we sit all over the place and we are discussing issues that should have been avoided. I know that when you have any organization for that matter, most of all a political party, they are bound to be arguments and all of that. But some of these arguments are needless. So the party leadership knows they are being at the forefront of doing the right thing, of zoning. So let's continue with that. We shouldn't abandon that all of a sudden. That's my position.
And you're from the North Central. And recently, some leaders of thought in the North Central have said, look, it is right. We've not had any elected president from the North Central, perhaps not that I can remember. But they are already saying that the North Central should be given a chance. Some people will believe that the Igbos in the Southeast should be given a chance. These are the issues. And people will also debate that some of the differences that we have in this country, if for some people who think that they have been unjustly treated within the polity, that they have been marginalized. These are some of the conversation in the polity. And so that's the reason why I'm asking you. These conversations have come to the National Assembly when you talked about the issue of the spread of opportunities in public sector. So, I mean, for us to have a headway, where would you advise, if you had the opportunity to advise your party, if you're acting as a conscience of the PDP tonight, Senator Jeff, where would you say the party should look to resolve all of these differences and this problem, these controversies that we have?
Sharon, I don't want to sit here and begin to point at a particular geopolitical zone or whatever. But I've made my position very clear.
Even your zone, the North Central.
Sharon, let me say it. I'm going to land. You see, the late reggae singer once said that everybody's asking for peace, nobody's asking for justice. So you have to have justice before you have peace. So all those zones that have been crying, that we have been left out, these are the sort of things that will lead to restiveness, okay? So my zone is one of those places that have been denied leadership of this country as far as democratic democracy. Since democracy started way back, and this particular republic started, and you know, so they have a good case. But I don't want to sit because I come from North Central, say it must be North Central. Let's sit and see among those that have been denied, who's most deserving, you know. That's why I'm shy of sitting here and insisting that it must go to a particular place. But of course, you got it right. The North Central is one of those places that have a good case to put across to the party. And so, if we look at that, you will see that a lot of these issues that we have now will start to go down.
All right. We're due for a break, but I need to hear from Mr. Shagushomi before we wrap up this segment of the program. But we need to take a break now. And when we return, also don't forget, there is being a row between the state and the federal government. So I have two experts to join me. Mr. Oyedele, a taxation expert, and Mr. Kayode Ajulo, a lawyer, on the VAT row between the federal government and some of the state's government. We'll discuss that and get a final thought of my guests in Abuja afterwards. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to our Abuja studio and get some the closing moments now on the issue of the PDP leadership affair. Mr. Showmi, let's get your final thoughts on this one. Where does your party go from here? It's a dilemma, isn't it, for your party, 2023. I know that you're a very good friend to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Would you subscribe that presidency should be zoned in that direction again?
Well, Sheung, let me start by saying that the People's Democratic Party of Nigeria is the university and the incubator for political conversation and dialogue in this country. Even the so-called concept of zoning and rotation was created by us. And we do not insist that the process is stagnant or the conversation is ended. Where we are in the country today, in Nigeria, we are at such a precipice that over and above all other consideration, we must respect the fact that we have 6 geopolitical zones in the country. Of the 6 geopolitical zones in the country, 3 of those zones have not had a shot at the presidency at this time. In the order that they are important, the Northeast, who has not produced a president since Tafawa Balewa, the Southeast, that obviously has not produced a president and the administration is live, and the North Central, who have not produced a president in this democratic environment. We will look at that. We will also be looking at who is the man that can hit the ground running and begin to correct the really bad issues that we're contending with in the country, issues of poverty, issue of restiveness, issue of national division, and all of that, almost bringing to a point of bankruptcy. Therefore, in all of this, you can trust the People's Democratic Party of Nigeria that when they fall into the caucus where they have to do that zoning, we're going to be zoning, understanding and having at the back of our mind that we're looking for the best Nigerian within reasonable equity that can provide leadership, carry the country forward, probably stabilize the country, and then the country can begin to now look for competence over and above every other thing. So I believe that if you think about it very well, you may probably think that we will do what is just, we will do what is right, and no zone will be shortchanged. I am very confident that when the caucus meets and they take that decision, I'm very confident that from whatever zone we go to, I'm very confident that the kinds of material that will be coming forward to challenge and say this is the new way for Nigeria will be the kind of people that Nigerians can love and the kinds of people Nigerians can respect. And what will now be required is for the Nigerians themselves not to play the ostrich. There's no point arguing that all our lives collectively has been mismanaged by the Buhari-led APC government. What will now be required for them now is to brace up, go get their PVC, go register, and let's all come together and rescue Nigeria from the very difficult state we found ourselves, which we've never found ourselves in the history of our country. So I can guarantee you that from the same stable of the PDP, where most of this narrative for progress comes, the next narrative around where we should zone, how we should zone it, what section we should look at, where the numbers are, who is best able to provide leadership. I'm sure all of that will be taken into consideration, and by the grace of God Almighty, Nigeria will be rescued.
Segun Showumi, a former spokesperson for the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 presidential election, and Senator Okejev, a sitting senator in the National Assembly representing Benue North. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. I appreciate it. And I wish your party the very best as you look ahead for the NEC meeting tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
A pleasure.
Well, now, let's switch gears now and look at what happened since the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt on the 10th of August ruled that the state and not the Federal Inland Revenue Service should be collecting value-added tax, VAT, and personal income tax. So, today, the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria says it has appealed the judgment of the Federal High Court in Rivers State, which held that the agency does not have the right to collect tax in the state. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, a group lead special tax operation at the FRS, Mr. Matthew Bogunbola insists that it is the exclusive right of the Federal Inland Revenue Service to collect all value-added tax in the country. Take a listen to him.
VAT cannot work at subnational level. And there is no country in the world where VAT works at subnational level. And the reason is because VAT depends on the input-output mechanism. And just to illustrate this, for example, assuming a business person bought an item, let's say in Osun State, and paid VAT, and takes the goods to, let's say, Sokoto State to sell. Remember, this business person had paid VAT when purchasing the products in Osun State. And when selling in Sokoto State, it will charge VAT. And by the operation of the input-output mechanism, this business person will deduct the input tax paid in Osun State from the output tax charged in Sokoto State and remit any difference to the relevant tax authority. In this case, because there is a single tax authority handling VAT, it is the same authority that received the VAT in Osun State that will receive the additional VAT payable in Sokoto State. And so it is easy to work out the input-output mechanism, and there is no issue of the business person being shortchanged. There's no issue of consumers having to pay VAT more than once. I can confirm to you that FRS indeed had approached the appellate court to review the judgment at the lower court, at the Federal Court of Appeal in Rivers. And I think I'll just leave it at that. So be assured that FRS has filed an appeal, and that one is in process, and that is why we are not able to speak. I am not aware that FRS has presented any bill to the National Assembly to request for any social media tax. And I can tell you on behalf of my executive chairman very clearly, this is not from us. So if there's any such bill at the National Assembly, FRS is not a sponsor, and we have not seen it. And if we see it, we are able to comment appropriately.
You heard it. So today, earlier today that is, the governor of Rivers State, who is at the forefront of all of this, had gone to court and in fact has signed a bill into law, the VAT bill in Rivers State, stating how Rivers State will be collecting VAT. Today he was insistent on the fact that Rivers State will continue to collect. Lagos State had joined that conversation. States like Akwa Ibom, Adamawa State has also joined the conversation. Invariably, it means that if this is happening and the 36 states of the Federation collects this VAT, the federal government, the FRS, will be losing about 2.4 trillion naira. Should it lose the appeal at the court? Take a listen to the governor of Rivers State, NYESOM WIKE, earlier today.
Would you not like to survive? I'm not the author of the Constitution. I'm not the author. I was not one of those who participated in it. I was not one of those. Take, for example, I give out a contract for the development of my state. Roads, say 200 billion naira. Take, for example. What is the business of federal government to come and collect 7.5% of the road I have given out in my state? Not even federal roads, as it may be. In my own state, local roads that I have awarded to companies in my state. So federal government takes 7.5% of 200 billion naira and distributes amongst the states. So what encourages me to go and give out that contract? So you allow me to come and call the BB companies, award contract to them, then you come and collect the tax, and go and distribute it to other states who are not awarding contracts. I mean, how does it sound? How does it sound? I'm not even talking about the ones that we have not awarded. The ones this is Rivers State government awarding 200 billion naira job. Somebody somewhere sits in his office and said, collect 7.5. Then distribute it to those states that have not awarded contracts. And you say that is equitable? That is justice? What are we challenging? Rivers State government is challenging VAT. I mean FRS. Stop collecting VAT in my state. I am not challenging you not to collect VAT in Abuja. Let it be understood now. I'm challenging you that the law says I am the one to collect. Rivers State government is to collect. VAT in their own state. So where is the jurisdiction first? The jurisdiction is within Rivers State.
So tonight, let's unbox this for you. That's what we do right here, to give you as a citizen the perspective that you need to make the right decision. You perhaps are living in Rivers State or Lagos State and Akwa Ibom or Adamawa State, and of these states that are also contemplating following to in the way Rivers State have gone, and you're probably confused on how you can go about paying this VAT. FRS had contested it and gone to the appeal court. So we have two gentlemen for you to give insight into it. The legal angle and, of course, the technical taxation angle of it. So I have joining me virtually two of them. I have Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, is a fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at the PwC. He's a taxation expert. He joins us from Lagos. And from London is a lawyer, Mr. Kayode Ajula. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Quickly, my audience on this program, they might not be the ones with those mathematical or the deep economic understanding. And that's why I like us to break it down in an easy-to-digest format. Mr. Oyedele, let's hear you. First and foremost, give us a sense of what this means. VAT is what people pay when they consume or render services, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. Thank you very much. So value-added tax is a tax you pay when you consume goods and services, including sometimes intellectual property rights, if they are not described as exempt or zero-rated. So if I want to simplify that, if you buy bread, if you buy beans, if you buy rice, those are considered to be basic food items, so they're exempt, so you don't pay VAT. If you buy a mobile phone, if you pay for your airtime, those are not exempted, so you have to pay VAT at the national level, 7.5%. And then we're now seeing different rates coming up from different states. So essentially, this is a tax that affects everybody, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it has an impact on you.
So basically, it was jacked up from 5% to 7.5%. And of course, in this sense, how generally is this the tax that are being collected? How has it been distributed in the country? It goes to the federal government coffers, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. And just to also clarify a point that you made in the introduction. So currently, VAT is shared 50% to states, 35% to local governments, and 15% to the federal government. Now, the federal government will not lose money if this position is sustained for states to start collecting. Reason being that last year, FRS collected 1.53 trillion from VAT. Out of that, import VAT, international VAT was about 51%. The Federal Capital Territory collected 202 billion naira and only shared about 35 billion, also plus the local government. So FCT donated about 166 billion. If everyone start collecting VAT within their territory, federal government would actually be collecting about 60% of the VAT, even though they are taking 15%. So this is actually the biggest winner, to be honest, would be the federal government. But the question is whether that is the right thing for us to do as a country. Even if we decide to share the amount that the federal government collects using the federation account ratio, you still have federal government taking 52% of 60%. That's more than 30%, more than twice what they are taking at the moment. So really, the conversation, in my view, is that the way the VAT is being shared is not equitable because 20%, only 20% is shared based on derivation. 50% and 30% are shared based on equality and population. So that is why you find the likes of Rivers State and Lagos State and a few other states feeling like they are contributing so much, but they are getting so little. But at the end of the day, we have to think about what is the best format of VAT system for Nigeria. Like the FRS said, there are so many, federations around the world that have VAT. They do not operate it at the state level. There are countries like Canada. They have both federal and provincial goods and services tax. Countries like Brazil has a federal VAT, and they have state sales tax and services tax. The US has only sales tax at the state level. So it's not a question of copying and pasting from somewhere. We have to look for what is the most appropriate structure for Nigeria that does not create problems for small and large businesses, and more importantly, for the people. And to my mind, that format is a format that we legislate the tax centrally, we collect it centrally, but we use data and information to ensure that all the VAT collected from a particular state is given to that state 100%. And the only thing we're going to be sharing is a VAT on imports, VAT on international services, and VAT on federal government contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Oyedele. Please stay with me. Let me go over to London with Mr. Kayode Ajulo. Because this matter is also sub judice, so carefully we need to thread so that we're not working on landmines. But I mean, you're a senior lawyer, so you understand better. So give us a sense of what the law specifies, because VAT is governed by the Value Added Tax Act. It's been amended. But does the law specify who collects, who's to collect? Has there been any ambiguity in the law on who to collect VAT?
Well, thank you very much. I thank you very much. Caution first has to be taken in discussing this matter, particularly since the matter is before the court, and one should be careful not to be found wanting in area of being subjudice. Now, the issue as it is so clear. The issue today as it is that when it comes to issue of tax, it has to do basically by the federal government. That's why you see that the exclusive list of our that's the schedule of the Constitution is so clear that it is in exclusive list. But there's a lacuna. When it comes to VAT, I think we should stop mentioning this word VAT so that Nigerian people can understand it very well. When it comes to issue of goods and services, VAT itself is based on consumable goods and sales tax. Once it's on that, the law is silent on it. And going by the Federal Inland Revenue Services Act, the law is silent too on who to collect that. And as it is, and I like you said, we need a legal perspective on it. As it is today, the Rivers State and some other states, they are having their own laws to administer and the collection of tax. So as it is, that is the position of the law. And that is why the court, as of today, has already allowed the state to have this. Now, considering what everybody is saying, the FRS may say this is what has been happening, but one thing that is so clear is that we have been talking about restructuring in the country for some time. Nigeria is a country built with our law, and then equity and justice. And if the equity of it has to be, the essence is that where it is consumed, because when it comes to tax and VAT law, it is about geolocation. The location of the place has to be taken into consideration, and the effect, like what the governor of Rivers State mentioned some minutes ago, that he can be awarding contract and the tax will be taken from there. And the essence of tax, we know, is to administer the area, the location. So as it is, though the matter is still in court, but the law that is enforced today is that the FRS cannot administer that collection of that tax, and that is the law.
Give us a sense, because when we talk about equity and fairness in the distribution of the collection of its tax, will any state be collecting less than it's presently collecting should the Federal Inland Revenue Service lose this case at the Supreme Court or at the Appeal Court, whichever be the case?
Well, as it is, again, God forbid that as a lawyer I should be speculating what the court will see, whether it will lose or not. But the extant law, as it is this. there's no law that empower the Federal Inland Revenue to collect VAT. That is one. And as it is, Rivers State already has its law that empower the state to collect that tax. And when it comes to administration of tax, it is the it is who empowers you that makes you to do what it is. So in the eyes of the law, who can empower, who can administer that tax, that collection of tax, is the state and as given by their law. Though, and when you talked about the equity of it is so clear. Like I said, we have several taxes in the country. We have the company taxes, petroleum taxes, capital taxes, all that. Nobody has issue on that. But when it comes to consumption taxes, particularly when it comes to sales taxes, in which what matters most is the location. I know someone from the Federal Inland Revenue mentioned about if somebody take something to another state, I want to believe that one is imposed. We are talking of consumption. Where is it consumed? That is what matters, and that's the way we should look at it. And the equity of it, like I mentioned earlier, that for some time we'll be talking of restructuring in the country. We're talking of fiscal federalism. This, and I want to say, is the essence of the fiscal federalism, that where you work, whatever you do, that is where you should take things from. Not that I will work so hard, I will make my state to be so great, people will come, they will consume, and you want the tax I make from it to be taken to another state where they seem to be where they seem to be sleeping on what to do. With this, you see every state, there will be innovation from the state. With this, you
All right. So let me go back to Mr. Oyedele. You mentioned earlier that some states like Lagos and Rivers, they pay more or they generate more, but they get back little. Should the appeal go in the way of the state? That means that is if the 36 states of the Federation now collect VAT, which of the states are going to be on the receiving end, perhaps getting less?
Yeah, so unfortunately, all the states will be getting less. And this is very simple. So Lagos State is credited with contributing about 60 to 65% of VAT collection within the Nigerian territory, so within all the states. But Lagos State has what I call the headquarters effect, so which means all the largest companies in Nigeria are mostly headquartered in Lagos. They remit all their VAT nationally in Lagos. So take MTN, for example. So if you start collecting by every state, you no longer be able to do that. You have to break down your VAT from where the activities took place. So even Lagos State will be surprised that its own contribution will go down significantly from what is being reported at the moment. Rivers State last year, about 42 billion was generated from River State, and shared to River State and the local government was 39 billion. So the balance is just like cost of collection. Now, where all the states, so the states are likely to be neutral will be Lagos and River State. But unfortunately, their collection efficiency cannot match the level of FRS in the next 2 to 3 years. It has taken FRS 28 years to get to the level where they are now. And I can tell you VAT is a complicated tax to administer. So it will take time. So if the states are looking at data in terms of what is in their best interest, they will take it easy. The fact that you have won a case does not mean you should immediately pass a new law. You can wait for finality by the Supreme Court, have time for engagement, for analysis. So if we need to amend the Constitution, let's amend it so that it's equitable and it's fair, but without creating confusion for the system.
Mr. Oyedele, thank you so much. Mr. Oyedele is of the Fiscal Policy Partner and Africa Tax Leader at the PwC. He's a taxation expert. And Mr. Kayode Ajulo is a senior lawyer who has been talking to us from London in the United Kingdom. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. And that's how we end the show today. Many thanks, everyone, wherever you may be watching. I'm sure Kimale. Bye for now.